In the past on this channel, I've claimed that Pokemon FireRed and Leaf Green were too easy to actually have much challenge in a hardcore Nuzlocke run. However, I think I finally found something today that can actually blend pretty solid challenge into an otherwise very easy game. Now, before we get into the challenge, I want to ask you guys to please subscribe to the channel. It's always been my goal to get this channel to 1,000 subscribers, and while we're probably not going to get it before the end of this year, if you guys can please just take a second out of your day to smash that subscribe button, I would really appreciate it. Also, if you wouldn't mind, please leave a comment below. I don't care what you say, maybe say what your favorite bug type is or something. Comments really help the YouTube algorithm, and if you like my content, I would love if you could help me promote it in the algorithm. Anyways, without further ado, it is time to take on Pokemon FireRed using only the bug type. Now today we're only going to have 5 possible encounters, that being Butterfree, Beedrill, Parasect, Venomoth, and of course Scyther. Now Pinsir is in the game, but Pinsir is a Leaf Green exclusive, and I do not believe the run will be possible without Scyther, as you'll see why later. Now, many may consider this to be cheap, but I'm going to give my rival Bulbasaur by picking Squirtle here in the lab, and that's because I genuinely don't know if I'd be able to take out a rival team with Charizard. Obviously, Charizard being a fire and flying type and having 2 stabs that are super effective against my 5 already weak bug encounters doesn't sound like a recipe for success for me. Anyways, like I said, the Squirtle also has the added benefit of being an HM user, as it can learn both Strength and Surf. Now, while catching Weedle and Caterpie here in the early game, I made sure to reset if I didn't get Weedles and Caterpies with good natures and good IVs. And thankfully here, I get a Weedle with a good attack IV and a Caterpie with a plus speed nature. As you'll see later in this run, it is absolutely imperative that we outspeed our opponent with Butterfree, because there's not a whole lot we're going to be doing without Butterfree's compound-ized Sleep Powder. Anyways, we catch both of them, we verify to make sure their stats are up to our liking, and it is time to prepare to take on the first gym leader, the Rock-type user Brock. Now, if you know anything about bugs, you know they don't like being hit in the head with stones, so with preparation here, we have all of our Weedle all the way into Beedrill, and we have all our Caterpie all the way into Butterfree, who is the absolute keystone of this run. Without a fast Butterfree, I do not believe this run would be remotely possible. Now, in Brock's gym, I like to show the fight against the camper, because going up against this Geodude shows how well you'll be able to take on Brock, since this Geodude is a pretty similar level to Brock, and I believe has the same exact moveset. And Sandshrew here has pretty good defense for an early point in the game, so I have to switch over into Butterfree. Butterfree, especially for this point in the game, is a pretty solid special attacker. I land Poison Powder for Chip, which wasn't really necessary, as Confusion is doing pretty big damage into the Sandshrew, and the second one easily polishes it off, earning us the right to take on the Rock Gym leader, Brock. Now, unfortunately for us, although Butterfree is our best answer into his Pokemon, it being a bug and flying type, meaning it is 4 times weak to rock type moves. But thankfully, Geodude just sucks and goes to a defense scroll, allowing us to get an easy 2-shot with Confusion and level up to level 15, which is allowed, obviously, as the level cap starts at the beginning of the battle, as we can teach Sleep Powder in the place of Tackle. Now, in Generation 1, Brock has like 5 full heals per Pokemon, but here in Generation 3, I believe he just has Potions, so I can easily put the Onix to sleep with compound-ized Sleep Powder, which gives Sleep Powder, I believe, a 97.5% chance to hit. Onix wakes up, it just whiffs Rock Tomb, which thankfully, it has like 80% accuracy, that's somewhat common, and a third of Confusion downs the Rock Snake, earning us our first Kanto Gym badge, Damageless. You know it feels good when you're weak to the gym type, but you don't even gain a single hit point of damage. That shows how overpowered sleep tactics are, and that's why we needed a good Butterfree, because they're going to completely carry us through the run. After picking up the TM for Thief and Mount Moon, which will be pretty useful for getting type boosting items, we can run into our third encounter, that being the Bug and Grass type Paris. Now, I low-key get unlucky here getting the Poison with Poison Sting, meaning I have like 2 chances to catch the Paris, but thankfully it goes in the first ball, and team member number 3 is on the squad. Just in time to take on Misty. Paris being a grass type would theoretically be useful here, but unfortunately he's not going to get much use in the fight. I leave with Beedrill and go for Focus Energy, as Staryu just goes for a useless Harden, and Focus Energy pays off as our second use of Twin Needle connects for a critical hit, downing the Staryu. Now, unfortunately here, we do hit a Twin Needle, but unfortunately for us, though, we are confused, so it's not safe to stay in. Switch over to Paris, who does resist Water Pulse, but Starmie is now 2 for 2 on Confusion with Water Pulse. Hoping he'll happen a third time, I go to Butterfree on a Swift, and then try to go for a Sleep Powder, but Starmie is now 3 for 3 on 30% Confusion, and to make matters worse, the 50% hit in Confusion happens to Butterfree, denying us the use of Sleep Powder. I go back into Paris here, knowing he can take about 2 non-critical hit Water Pulses before letting go for a Stun Spore. Thankfully, he does not crit or confuse, and Stun Spore does connect, allowing Starmie to be paralyzed and getting us hopefully a safe switch into Beedrill. Unfortunately, Swift does connect, but since we outspeed due to the paralysis, 1 use of Twin Needle downs to Starmie, and gets us our second Kanto Gym badge over the Water-type user Misty. This one has gone well so far, but there is a lot of major threats coming up later, and it ain't gonna be easy from here on out. Anyways, time to take on rival number 2.
Pidgeotto, but if you know anything about the Pidgeline, you know that it is absolutely garbage. Thankfully, it stays asleep for a few turns, meaning that we can plug away with Confusions and get it down in 3 hits without it even doing a single tick of damage. In comes Rattata, who does not have the best special defense in the world, and after just connecting with a soft quick attack, goes down in 2 Confusions, leading into Abra. Now, Abra literally can't move at all and only knows teleport, and he'll never switch because this is Generation 3. As a single Twin Needle downs the Abra, leading into Bulbasaur. As we just stay in and go for a Twin Needle, Leech Seed connects, but it doesn't heal enough for Bulbasaur to survive, meaning that one more Twin Needle takes it out, earning us the victory over Rival 2. Now, I really hope you like Rival fights, because right after Rival 2, we head over to the SS Anne. And if you know anything about the SS Anne, you know that it contains another Rival fight. After we save the game with an hour 36 on the clock, it is time to take on our good friend once again, as Rival number 3 is underway. He once again leads off with his trusty Pidgeotto, 2 levels higher this time, but Sleep Powder of course outspeeds and connects, meaning that we're free to plug away with Confusions. Looks to be a 3-shot once again as we get into the yellow. He does not heal, and his Pidgeotto once again dies in its sleep, leading into Raticate. Now, if you know anything about Raticate, you know that he benches it after this fight, and hey, if you're playing a Nuzlocke, maybe it did die. In comes our good friend Honey, of course, and it does wake up, unfortunately, meaning that I end up switching out again, due to the Tail Whip, but going into Mushroom here, I elect to go for Stun Spore for some reason, which I don't think is a very good idea. I'm actually not sure if Blue's Raticate has guts or not, but if it does, that actually is a terrible idea. Fortunately, though, we just crit a Secret Power before it does any damage, meaning we don't have to worry about it, and also take out Kadabra with a single use of Twin Needle, leading into Ivysaur. Twin Needle does about half as he connects with the Leech Seed, meaning a second Twin Needle will not get the KO, so I like to switch into my good friend Butterfree, taking a quad-resisted Vine Whip, and getting a Confusion with Confusion on the switch, meaning that he hits himself down to a Sliver, and one more Confusion outspeed gets the KO on Ivysaur, earning us the win over Rival 3, saving the game with 2:27 on the clock, and allowing us to weirdly rub the captain's back and get the HM for cut. Our trusty friend Paras hits his evolution into Parasect, and without further ado, it is time to take on the Electric-type Gym Leader, Lieutenant Surge. First off is Voltorb. Fortunately for us, we taught Mushroom Dig, but unfortunately for us, he outspeeds and connects with a Screech, meaning we're at -2 defense. Thankfully, most of his Pokemon do have special attacks, but not thankfully, it goes for Paralysis and Double Team, meaning it's going to be nearly impossible for us to land a Dig. We're underground with a second chance for us to get fully paralyzed, and even if we do break through, it's very likely we're just going to miss the Dig, as Pikachu has 3 Double Teams up. Somehow, though, we do connect through all of that, earning us the right to take on Raichu. And since Mushroom is fairly safe to most of his attacks, with its Grass typing resisting the Electric type, I do manage to hit a Dig down to about a 3rd HP for Raichu. But as you can see here, it is getting quite dangerous for our Parasect to stay in. Somehow, though, despite all the odds, we do connect with 2 Digs, taking out the oversized Rat, and earning us our 3rd Kanto Gym badge, which gives us a nice badge boost to speed, which makes our already fast Butterfree even faster, meaning those Sleep Powders going to be raining down on all our opponents for the rest of the game. Next up is Gym Leader Erica, and while this fight can be challenging in certain monolocks, not this one, as we mostly resist all of her attacks with the Flying, Poison, and Grass subtypes on our team. And to make matters even worse for her, her Poison types are weak to our Confusion on Butterfree. Thankfully, we get it to go to sleep, and 2 Confusions and a Gust down the Victory Bell, earning us the right to take on Tangela. Now, in Generation 3, Grass types are not immune to Powder moves. I believe that was added in Generation 6. However, Erica does have access to full heals, making this slightly more annoying. Thankfully, she only goes for 1, and we crit our next Confusion down in the Tangela, earning us the right to take on Vileplume. Now we just outspeed, put Vileplume to sleep, and start plugging away with super effective Confusions. However, we only get off a couple before Paralysis starts to take effect to us, and acid damage is actually starting to rack up. We stay in with 26 HP, but after back-to-back full paras, we're forced to switch, going into Beedrill. Now, Beedrill does resist acid, however, it crits and gets the defense drop, 2 of like the worst possible things that could happen. I go into Mushroom on a Stun Spore and try to go for Spore, which is obviously the only 100% accurate sleep move in the game. We do connect, putting Vileplume to sleep, allowing it to switch back into Beedrill. Our best damaging move is probably Secret Power, however 1 is not enough to take it out. Thankfully it stays asleep, and a second Secret Power downs the Rafflesia Flower, getting us our 4th gym badge. That was way harder than it needed to be, but hey, having a team of 3 bug types, things are never going to be easy, obviously. Next up is the Rival in Lavender Tower. Since we took on Erica, our level cap shoots up to 43, meaning we can pretty safely overlevel for this fight. And this Pidgeot man has been 11 to take snoozes in this run. This is the 3rd consecutive battle that we've been able to put it to sleep and 3-shot it with Confusion without taking any damage. That Pidgeot has been the LVP of our Rivals team thus far, as Bro has done absolutely nothing. In comes Growlithe. We can put it to sleep with a Sleep Powder and get a safe switch into Mushroom on the 1 guaranteed turn of sleep. Thankfully, it stays asleep for a 2nd turn, allowing us to go underground with a Dig and one-shot the Fire Dog with a single ground-type attack. In comes Ivysaur, so I try to Spore it to sleep, but unfortunately it outspeeds and connects with a 75% accurate Sleep Powder. But fortunately for us, we quad-resist its Razor Leafs. Even if it gets a crit, it's doing absolutely nothing. And we can finally wake up and go for a Spore, putting the Dinosaur to sleep. I go for Dig as it is neutral and it uses our better attack stat, but it isn't doing half and is able to wake up and land a Poison Powder on us. We do connect with a Leech Life, bring it down to about a 3rd. We tank a Razor Leaf, go underground, which gives more time for poison damage to rack up. But fortunately, we take out the Grass Dinosaur,
earning us the right to take on the Water-type Gyarados. Now, Gyarados goes for an Intimidate, meaning it's probably good for us to switch, doing it Butterfree. It's about a 4th with Thrash. Thankfully, we put it to sleep, ending its Thrash combo, allowing us to go for Confusions. But Gyarados' base 100 special defense means it's going to take quite a lot to down this dragon with Confusion, especially since it does not stab. We end up taking a Thrash with 3 HP, luckily enough, before putting it to sleep and switching into Beedrill. And Beedrill here doesn't have great damage with anything. I hope for a Poison with Twin Needle, which we don't get, and Gyarados wakes up. I switch to Secret Power, which leaves Gyarados with a single HP, but thankfully we take a Thrash with 13 HP, allowing us to take it out in one more Secret Power, and allowing a single Twin Needle to down Kadabra, earning us a very difficult fight over rival number 4. This fight is usually stupidly easy in most Nuzlockes and even solo runs, but hey, like I said, 3 bug types, nothing's gonna be.
Thankfully, the next fight is Giovanni in the Underground, which is usually a joke. Bullet Seed can take care of Onix and Rhyhorn with no problem. Unfortunately, though, we do get a low roll 2-hit Bullet Seed, but Stomp does no damage, and Mushroom easily downs the Rock Ground type, earning us to take on Kangaskhan. Kangaskhan does go for a Fake Out, which is a surprising amount of damage, but thankfully just goes for a Tail Whip, allowing us to hit it with a Spore. In comes Honey the Beedrill, and we can start going for Twin Needles, which is probably our best damaging move. Unfortunately for us, though, it's not doing a whole lot, and then I remember, oh wait, I have the Fighting type Brick Break, and take it out with 2 more Brick Breaks, getting us an easy fight over the Game Corner Giovanni battle. This battle's like almost never hard, no matter what you have. We pick up the Silph Scope, save the game with 4:42 on the clock, and head to the top of Lavender Tower. This is always a really annoying section of the game, as it's never particularly difficult, and as you can see at this point, our Butterfree is really over-leveled, able to easily take out these Zubats with super effective Psybeams. I don't know why at this point in the game Rocket Grunts still have Zubats and Rattata of all things. Thankfully this guy does have Eradicate, but that's not going to be particularly hard to deal with as we have like a 10 level advantage on him. And yes, Secret Power finishes off the oversized Rat, earning us the right to finish up Lavender Tower and almost finish up with this stupid Rocket subplot. The Rocket subplot in Gen 1 is bad, but it's nowhere near as bad as it is in the Johto games. Thankfully now we can finish up our encounter list now that we've got the Fuchsia City, meaning that we can get the Bug and Poison type of Venonat. Now, Venonat is going to be pretty nice to this run, as it also does have Compound Eyes, just like Butterfree, and also gains access to Psychic through Level Up, paired with a good special attack stat. I thankfully do actually catch a Scyther in the Safari Zone. If I didn't catch it here, I was totally safe to go buy one in the Game Corner. But it's nice to save my money there and get our 5th and final team member, who is the absolute key to this run. Without Scyther, the late game is going to be completely impossible. By delaying my evolution to Venomoth, I can get Psychic by level up at level 41 instead of 50, meaning we actually get it for the next couple level caps here. It's going to be useful immediately, as the next gym leader we choose to take on is the Poison-type Master Koga. He leads with Coughing, but since we have a fully evolved Pokemon with a solid move in Psychic, we can one-shot it pretty easily, leading it to Muck. Now this Muck loves to get annoying with Minimize and raises evasiveness. As you can see here, we do miss a Psychic, but thankfully we take a weak Sludge and down it with a second Psychic, bringing in the second Coughing, who, as expected, gets one-shot, just leaving Weezing. Now Weezing takes over half from a Psychic, hits a weak Sludge, and although Koga heals, since we outspeed, we are free to down the stupid Sludge monster eventually after a war of attrition, thanks to a critical hit. After going to level 42, we earn our 5th Kanto Gym badge and get the badge boost for defense. There's one more to go for special attack, which would be really useful for Venomoth, but hey, I am not looking forward to Blaine whatsoever. Can't get ahead of ourselves too far, though, as it's time to take on what many consider to be the hardest fight in the game, that being rival number 5. This guy has a diverse team of many different types of Pokemon, and it's not easy to take him on like it is with most mono-type gym leaders. Thankfully, the AI doesn't really know how Substitute works, and in the debut battle of Slice the Scyther, we're able to get off a Swords Dance and an Agility, unfortunately not one-shotting Pidgeot. Thankfully, since Pidgeot sucks, we can take a Wing Attack and take it out, growing to level 42, but Growlithe comes in and brings us down to only +1, meaning even though we can take it out, Gyarados' Intimidate puts us at +0, meaning we're not safe to stay in at all, and are forced to switch. Butterfree has decent special defense, and we can bring it in on a Bite, allowing us to outspeed and go for Sleep Powder. However, we miss, and the fixed damage Dragon Rage connects for 40 damage. Thankfully, we're still safe to take one more, but fortunately, we don't have to worry about that, as we do put the Gyarados to sleep on our second attempt. I try to switch, but there's nothing I can really switch into, as its beefy 100 base special defense paired with its really high attack stat does not particularly make it safe for us to stay in. We get a clutch hit in Confusion, putting it back to sleep, allowing us to plug away with more Psybeams, as the Water and Flying type mercifully stays asleep for a few more turns. You bring it into the red, and it stays asleep, allowing one more Psybeam to polish it off. It comes to Alakazam, but this thing isn't super scary, as its best attacking move is Future Sight. Unfortunately for us, though, it sets up a Con Mine, which means our Thieves are going to be doing less damage. I put it back to sleep, hitting one more Thief, which doesn't do a whole lot, as it wakes up and goes for Future Sight. Now, as long as we can take it out in one more turn, we'll be good, as we put it back to sleep, and one more Thief takes out the fully evolved Psychic type. We go to level 41 with slightly more HP, meaning we can take a Future Sight with 8 HP. I was absolutely shook when this happened, as I did not want to reset at this point in the run, but thankfully our Keystone stays alive, allowing it to save switch into Mushroom. Now, Mushroom's job here is just to tank Razor Leaves and hopefully try to put this thing to sleep with Spore.
Now, as you can see, even critical hits aren't doing anything as we quad resist as Razor Leaves, and Razor Leaf isn't the most powerful move in the world, 55 power, I believe, in Gen 3. Thankfully, we do have neutral damage in the form of Dig, which leverages our better attack stat versus our special attack. However, it doesn't pair super well with Spore, as it gives the Venusaur 2 chances to wake up every time we attack. Thankfully, though, as I said, Razor Leaf is doing absolutely nothing even on crits, meaning that even though our Mushroom has taken yet another snooze, we can put the Dinosaur back to sleep with a Spore before electing to switch into our super effective attacker, that being Lamp the Venomoth. I don't know why I didn't do this earlier, as Psychic is doing really good damage, and a Psybeam eventually downs the Grass Dinosaur, earning us a deathless victory over rival number 5, thankfully finishing off this very difficult fight. Next up is going to be the battle against Giovanni, which will thankfully give us a little break here before we go back into really difficult fights, but man, this challenge is much harder than even I expected. Thankfully, we do have pretty good super effective damage here against this Nidorino with our trusty friend Lamp. I don't know why I'm just sitting here on the screen staring at Psybeam for a while, but eventually when I decide to click it, it should be a one-hit KO. Thankfully it is, downing the Nidorino in one single hit, leading into Rhyhorn. But we have quad effective damage with our newly TM-taught Giga Drain, leading into Kangaskhan. Now, this thing doesn't have the best special defense in the world, but I just put it to sleep with Sleep Powder thanks to our Combined Eyes ability. It is 97.5% accurate. It does wake up and hit a Mega Punch. We put it right back to sleep and start plugging away with Psychic, this time getting the Sped F drop. And even though Mega Punch connects, we are totally safe to stay in and down the Dinosaur with one more Psychic. In comes Nidoqueen, which has pretty good special defense, meaning I'm not particularly safe to stay in. I end up going into Mushroom on a Body Slam, which is pretty decent damage. A second one does connect, but we do dodge the Paralysis, thankfully, allowing us to put it to sleep and go for some super effective digs. Like I said, Nidoqueen is pretty defensive, meaning Dig only does about a third, and Poison Point means we're not safe to stay in here, allowing us to switch into Butterfree. Thankfully, just goes for a Tail Whip, and we can outspeed and put it back to sleep with another 97% accurate Sleep Powder, allowing us to plug away with super effective Psybeams. Thankfully, we crit, and it goes for a super useless double click, allowing one more Psybeam to down it, earning us the victory over the final Rocket Giovanni fight, and finally ending this stupidly boring plotline. Thankfully, it's not as bad as Generation 2, but I'm glad it's over, as now I can take on my favorite part of the Kanto games, that being the Gym Leader boss rush at the end. First up is the Psychic Trainer Sabrina. This is an absolute clown show. Kadabra keeps waking up after one turn of sleep. I keep having to switch back into Butterfree to put it back to sleep, hoping Scyther can come in safely. After a Future Sight connects, I finally get this stupid thing to stay asleep for longer than a turn, and I can set up my good old strategy with Substitute Swords Dance. After setting up one Swords Dance, we're good to outspeed the rest of Sabrina's team after a single agility. Even though Kadabra sets up Future Sight, after a sub gets set up, it is absolutely over, as Slash one-shots the Kadabra, leading into her trusty Venomoth. Future Sight just fails since we're behind a substitute, meaning we can one-shot the Venomoth with a Slash. Mr. Mime goes down to a single Slash, and last but not least is Alakazam, whose frail defenses lead it to go down to a single Slash. Thank God we finally let Kadabra stay asleep for longer than a turn, as that fight, although it was never particularly dangerous, it was super annoying to keep having to switch back and forth between Butterfree and Scyther to get the right setup. Thankfully, though, it's over, and we got our 6th Kanto Gym Badge, earning us the right to take on what is probably mostly impossible, the fight against the Fire type. Now, thankfully, I do have a strategy against him that makes this fight at least somewhat safe. I can set up Rain Dance with Butterfree and start lowering his accuracy with Flash, meaning as long as I can get him to either miss or hit relatively weak Fire Blasts, once I get him out of all 5 PP of the move, it's pretty safe to switch into Scyther and start going for setup. Thankfully, he stays asleep on the switch, meaning I can set up a free substitute as he just misses a takedown with -6 accuracy. Meaning I can start setting up Swords Dances. Takedown doesn't even do enough to break the sub, meaning I got a second one up for free, and he just misses a bite, allowing me to get the +6. I go for an Agility just to be safe. Actually, no, I don't. I can just start going for Return and start one-shotting all of his Pokemon. Growlithe, one-hit KO. Ponyta, one-hit KO. In comes our good friend Rapidash, one-hit KO. And even with the Intimidate from Arcanine, it's not going to be a problem with +5. Getting a single 102 +5 return, one-shots the Fire Dog, getting us a deathless victory over the Fire-type Gym Leader Blaine. Gotta love broken accuracy strats, as hey, that was probably the only reason we could get our 7th Gym Badge in this run. Now, cue the music, because next up is Clown Ovani. I've never had this fight be difficult at all, as in FireRed, they made his team absolutely garbage. I'm able to put Rhyhorn to sleep and start going for quad effective Bullet Seed on it, and thankfully since we get 3 hits, we down the first Rhyhorn with a single super effective Bullet Seed. In comes his ace, the level 50 Rhyhorn, which I don't know why they didn't make it a Rhydon. Game Freak was really stupid in the remakes, and another 3-hit Bullet Seed downs it in one shot. In comes Nidoqueen, meaning that we're safe to stay in here for at least a turn, taking a Body Slam. And despite the paralysis, we hit a perfect accuracy Spore, allowing us a free switch into our good friend Lamp. Now, Lamp has super effective damage with Psychic, meaning that even though we don't get the one hit, Nidoqueen just stays asleep, and we can go for a Psybeam and Psychic combo to take out the Poison and Ground type monster. Unfortunately for us, though, he does stall with Heal, but hey, 2 more Psybeams get the job done easily, no problem at all. And comes Dugtrio, who has like 30 base HP, and a super effective Giga Drain one-shots it pretty easily. We go to level 51, getting slightly more power, meaning that we can take out Nidoking with a single Psychic since it has worse defenses than Nidoqueen, and we get the win over the Clown leader, Clown Ovani, without taking like any damage.
This fight is always stupidly easy. Solo runs, Nuzlocks, anything. I have never had this fight once be challenging. Giovanni is so bad in the remake, that's not even funny. You know who's not bad, though? Rival number 6. This is kind of like the preview of the champion battle, and this fight, usually pretty difficult. I try to lower Pidgeot's accuracy, but unfortunately due to its Keen Eye ability, that's not possible. That's my fault for not consulting docs before the fight. I don't think I'd have to in a FireRed run, but hey, that's what bug types do to an MF. I end up going into Lamp, and Psychic looks like it'll be a 2-shot. Thanks to the special defense drop, it's guaranteed now, and thanks to Pidgeot living its snoozes in this run, it goes down in 2 Psychics, earning us the right to take on Alakazam. Now, Alakazam just misses an attack, and I'm able to put it to sleep for free with a Sleep Powder, giving us a free switch into Slice, who one-shots the Psychic type with a single return. No setup this time needed. In comes Rhyhorn. Obviously, I can't stay in as I'm quad weak to Rock. I look to go into my good old friend Mushroom, who's neutral, but somehow Rhydon crits a Rock Blast on its 3rd attempt, meaning that one more of those would have taken out Mushroom. Thankfully, it doesn't though, and we can get a quad effective Giga Drain for the KO, earning us right to take on Growlithe. Now, I obviously can't stay in as I'm quad weak to Fire, as Butterfree comes down in a Flame Wheel and gets burned. RNG not in our favor there, but hey, we can outspeed and put it to sleep, meaning that we can get a switch into someone else, and I look to go for Slice. Thankfully, we do not wake up on that turn, and one single return polishes out the unevolved Fire Dog, earning us right to take on Gyarados. Now, this thing has been an absolute monster in the run, and without any setup, we can't really do any reliable damage to it. I go into Lamp on a Hydro Pump, who takes pretty solid damage here, as I put it to sleep. Now, thankfully, we can do at least decent damage with Psychic as Gyarados sets up the Rain. Now, in the Rain, Hydro Pump is going to do big damage as we whiff a 97% accurate Sleep Powder. Thankfully, the next one does connect, allowing us to put Gyarados to sleep, meaning that if it stays asleep for 2 more turns, we win. He wakes up, though, and whiffs a Hydro Pump. If he had connected with that, the run was over, as we were going to lose Lamp, who is our only answer into a lot of members of the Elite Four. Thankfully, Lamp survives. We can put Venusaur to sleep and start plugging away with super effective Psychics, which is the Dinosaur cooperates. 2 of them take him down, earning us the deathless victory over rival number 6. If I would have had to reset here, this video probably would not have come out. So thank Gyarados for not landing Hydro Pump there, as otherwise you wouldn't be watching this right now. After checking out our team one final time, it's time to see, can my team of 5 Kanto bug types become the champion? Stay tuned to find out, as this is going to be an absolutely thrilling finale. First off is the Water and Ice type trainer Lorelei, as she leads with Dugong. Now, I have kind of cheap strats on my side as I put Dugong to sleep and set up Sunny Day, which will lower the power of her water moves and also give me the added benefit of being able to hit 1-turn super effective Solar Beams. Dugong looks to be a 2-hit, and since it cooperates long enough, 2 Solar Beams down the Seal, earning us the right to take on her second Pokemon, Slowbro. Now, strategy's the same here. Slowbro doesn't have as good special defense as it has defense, meaning that 2 Solar Beams should get the job done. And thankfully, actually, 1 gets the job done thanks to a critical hit. Butterfree damage list as far as Jinx comes in. Now, Jinx has much better special defense than defense, meaning that I'm forced to switch here. As I go into Honey the Beedrill, Jinx wakes up and puts us to sleep with Lovely Kiss, but I really don't have an out at this point, as I'm just forced to stay in. Fortunately, Ice Punch isn't doing that much. It looks like it'll be a 3-shot, and thankfully we get a second turn wake up, one-shotting it with Twin Needle, bringing in Cloyster. Now, Cloyster here has terrible special defense compared to his defense, meaning I'm forced to go back into Butterfree. So thankfully it just fails to protect, allowing us to hit a Sleep Powder, set up the Sun, and go for a good old 1-turn Solar Beam, which if it connects will one-shot Cloyster, and thankfully it does. Now, this fight is far from over here, as their Lapras is an absolute monster in this fight. Thankfully, we outspeed and connect with a Sleep Powder, meaning that as long as we can hit 2 Solar Beams in its face, we should earn the victory. Lapras falls asleep, the Sun stays up for 1 more turn, but the Citrus Berry puts it out of Solar Beam range. It hangs out with a Sliver and hits a pretty hard Ice Beam into our Butterfly as the Sun fades. Meaning that on the heal, even though we do get a free Sleep Powder, we need Lapras to stay asleep for a few more turns. We set up the Sun, we go for a Solar Beam, it's going to do slightly over half, Lapras stays asleep, and thanks to that, 1 more Solar Beam downs the Loch Ness Monster, getting us a risky victory over Lorelei. Like I said, Elite Four is an absolute thriller with a team of bug type. I don't anticipate Bruno being too much of a problem. He leads up with Onix, which we can obviously one-shot with a quad effective Giga Drain. Onix is never an issue in any run, no matter what you're doing with like his 10 attack stat. And comes Hitmonchan. Although this thing does have a pretty good 110 special defense stat, I can just put it to sleep with Sleep Powder and plug away with Psychics. Psychic almost gets the one-shot, so I just go for Psybeam to keep him out of healing range and hit 1 more in the Hitmonchan's face to down it in 2 hits. Still damageless thus far as Machamp comes out as I put it to sleep with a 97% accurate Sleep Powder, leading into Psychic. Psychic almost gets the 1 hit, Machamp stays asleep, and its Citrus Berry cannot save it as 1 more takes out the 4-armed monster. In comes Hitmonlee, who has worse defenses than Hitmonchan, although I believe the special defense is actually the same at 110. I could be wrong. Thankfully, though, we do connect with Sleep Powder without taking any damage, meaning that we can go for a Psybeam and Psychic combo, keeping out of healing range and downing the Hitmonlee. Last but not least is Onix, but yeah, you know what's going to happen. Bruno was not a problem as we swept it with Venomoth without taking a single tick of damage. A nice little break here in the Elite Four. Now with Agatha, things are always kind of a lottery as it depends on how lucky she gets with moves like Hypnosis and Dream Eater. So we're going to try to play around her sleep strats with sleep strats of our own. Thankfully, we can just outspeed and one-shot the first Gengar with a super effective Psychic, leading into Golbat. Golbat confuses us and we break through with a Psychic, leaving it with like what must be 1 HP. Unfortunately here, I don't really want to stay in and risk hitting myself in confusion, so I switch into Butterfree on the heal, which gives us a free switch. They can now outspeed and put the bat to sleep with a Sleep Powder. This will hopefully grant me a free switch back into Venomoth, which thankfully it does, and we can take it out with a Psychic and Psybeam combo, growing to level 61 and earn the right to take on Haunter. Now, I stupidly tried to save PP by going for Psybeam, meaning that Haunter hangs on, but thankfully just whiffs a Hypnosis, allowing us to take it out in one more Psybeam. Shout out to the game for not punishing me for my After switching out into our good friend Mushroom the Parasect, Gengar just misses a Hypnosis, 2 actually at that, allowing us to finally hit our sleep move, that being Spore. Agatha was getting terrible luck in this fight, and I wouldn't really feel bad if it was Generation 2 because of the debuff. But here in Generation 3, there's no debuff to Hypnosis. Agatha is just whiffing 60% accurate moves over and over again, as a 4th one misses, allowing us to take out Gengar, leading into Arbok. But this thing is not a problem at all unless you get bad luck with Glare. We don't even have to worry about it though, as it just goes for a Screech, and a Psybeam and Psychic combo after a heal is more than enough to down the Poison type Snake. And just like that, we're past the actual easy part of the Elite Four. Now, Lance and the Champion is where the game like really starts at this point, because these two trainers are ridiculously difficult to deal with. Obviously, Lance has a really tough Aerodactyl on his side, an intimidating Gyarados, and also a pseudo-legendary Dragonite. Thankfully, we can outspeed and put the Gyarados to sleep, but as you saw with the Rivals Gyarados, this thing is not easy to deal with. I have to resort to cheap flash strategies once again to try to get a safe setup with Scyther. As you can see though, it is doing pretty good missing its attack, as its inaccurate Hydro Pump is getting even more inaccurate. Speaking of inaccurate though, Flash, why is it 70% accuracy in this game? Like, there's other accuracy moves like Sand Attack with 100% accuracy that Pokemon learn at like level 5. Why is Flash like a move that like a lot of Pokemon can learn, but still, why is it 70% accuracy? I set up the Sun here just to stall out more turns and hope it can miss more attacks as I try to put its accuracy even lower as I switch into Slice the Scyther. Now, you haven't seen him a lot in this run because I've been trying to keep him fresh for exactly this moment. Lance and the Champion are going to be nearly impossible without his Substitute and Swords Dance setups, and as you can see here, I needed Gyarados to miss enough to keep our sub intact for the rest of the fight, and you'll see why soon. Obviously, 102 power return one-shots the Gyarados, earning us the right to take on the pseudo-legendary Dragonite, but thankfully, a +6 return is able to eviscerate it as well. In comes Aerodactyl, and as you can see, it has Ancient Power, which is 4 times super effective, meaning that the sub takes it for us, and one Neutral Reflective Steel Wing downs the rock monster, earning us the right to one-shot his final 2 Dragonairs, getting us through the Elite Four. Now, as you can see here, Sleep Powder does have 90% accuracy, meaning if we missed, the run might have been over there. But hey, it wasn't, and we have the right to take on the Champion. Count your blessings, guys, because this run is alive. Let's pause for a second so I can explain what I actually need to do in order to win this fight. First, I need to get Pidgeot for a sleep long enough that I can set up on it. I cannot lower its accuracy because its ability Keen-Eye prevents accuracy lowering moves like Flash. I need to get a safe switch into Scyther, set up a substitute, and get to +6 Swords Dance with my sub intact. Now, I have multiple chances to do this, as I have 3 Pokemon in this fight, Venomoth, Parasect, and Beedrill, that are completely useless for this fight, and 2 of them have sleep-inducing moves, meaning that I can over and over again get switches into these Pokemon and get sacks, allowing Scyther to come back in safely and try to reset up its substitute. Thankfully, Scyther does naturally outspeed all of Blue's Pokemon, meaning I don't need Agility, and I can keep Steel Wing on my set, allowing me to one-shot Rhydon 90% of the time anyways, but hey, we need to hit that really badly. Now, I only need Scyther alive for this fight, meaning that if things go awry, I can go and sack my other Pokemon for safe switches, allowing me to hopefully get Scyther in with +6 and one-shot it. Now, the reason I need +6 is because both Arcanine and Gyarados have Intimidate, and at +2 or +3, my one-shots won't be guaranteed, while at +4, they definitely will be. Anyways, with all this aside, let's see how the fight goes. We lead off with our trusty Keystone Butterfree, putting Pidgeot to sleep before we can switch into Scyther. Now, this thing needs to stay asleep for at least 2 turns, and hopefully can whiff a Feather Dance when it wakes up. Now, obviously, things like Feather Dance don't work when you're behind a substitute, and the AI doesn't really understand that. I get the +2 with Swords Dance, Pidgeot wakes up and goes for Feather Dance as I set up the +4, as it breaks my sub with an Aerial Ace. And I like to just go for the kill at +4, because while doing this fight, I remembered something. Just as Feather Dance doesn't work, Intimidate doesn't work behind a substitute. And we can set one up against Rhydon as it whiffs a Rock Tomb, allowing us to one-shot it with Steel Wing. And with that aside, that may have just won us the run. Intimidate doesn't activate, +4 return one-shots Arcanine. With that out of the way, in comes Venusaur. Venusaur is pretty bulky, but a single 102 power return one-shots the Grass Dinosaur, leading into Alakazam. It's physically frail, goes down in one hit, and last but not least is the stupid Water and Flying Dragon, whatever you want to call it, Gyarados. Intimidate does not activate, and a +4 return wins us the run.
thank God, all that planning aside, and it was completely useless, as during the run I realized stat lowering doesn't work behind a substitute, meaning all we needed probably was +2. Scyther has a lot of base attack, and Return is stupidly powerful as base 102 attack, despite it not being stab. It's going to do a lot of damage into his Pokemon as long as they don't resist it. And with Steel Wing hitting into his Rhydon with a Rock Doom miss, that's what won us the run. Now, I'm sorry I made you sit through a minute of planning for it to be completely useless, but it was just to build up some suspense there, making the setup look a lot harder than it needed to be. Thankfully, the setup was a lot easier, we got the luck we needed, and we got through a rival on the first try. Now, this was not my first attempt of the run, obviously, as I had a lot of attempts that I just reset in the beginning due to poor natures on my Pokemon, and there were some that I tried to continue, but I ended up losing at Surge, or just losing Pokemon to random trainers. And as you know, I needed at least Butterfree, Venomoth, and Scyther to survive to the league, and obviously Parasect and Beedrill were nice to have around too for sacks. I don't think Beedrill actually did anything past like the third gym of the game, but hey, he was there for a sack in case I needed him, and we didn't even need him as he survived to the end. Butterfree, Beedrill, Parasect, Venomoth, and Scyther have completed a FireRed Bug Hardcore Nuzlocke. I don't even know if this run would be possible with Pinsir, because I don't believe Pinsir can even learn Swords Dance, and Swords Dance Substitute Return was the only reason I was able to defeat Lance or the Champion in this run. I hope you guys enjoyed. This is a really fun run to do, and I'll see you guys when whatever comes next. See you later.